everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar today. We're super excited. We have Brian from Kickstarter here. He's going to talk with us about Plot, what's come out since the program was in beta, about 8, 9 months ago now, I believe. Um,
Uh, yeah, just about a year.
yeah, just about a year. So it's super exciting. We've been using it. A lot of our accounts have loved it. So we're going to go ahead and get started.
Cool. Thanks, Amanda. Hi, everybody. My name is Brian McMurray. I'm a director of engineering and products for the payment space here at Kickstarter. Let me tell you a little bit more about Pledge Over Time, or as we like to call it, Plot. Uh, Got a couple of quick slides here to share. All right, hopefully my screen is visible. Great.
Yep.
Pledge Over Time is a product that we released in beta early last year in February, which is now generally available for all campaigns if you would like. That went live in May 2025. Pledge Over Time allows a creator to enable this option on their campaigns, and that will allow backers who are pledging over a certain amount to break their pledge up into three spaced out payments, one payment per month. So that means that if you've got a sort of high value pledge reward on your campaign, and what we often were hearing was backers wanted to participate in campaigns at those levels, but didn't necessarily have the cash all on hand for when the campaign ended, but they were happy to try to space that out over some period of time. And this is an option for you to do that, to make that available for your backers on your campaigns in a way that lets them participate, doesn't cause any sort of credit checks or lending, and doesn't charge any additional fees beyond Kickstarter's standard platform and processing fees for you, the creators. So some important things to emphasize here: that Plot is not a lending product. There's no credit checks or late fees for backers. It's not something similar. It's not using sort of the common lending solutions, buy now, pay later sorts of solutions. This is all managed within the Kickstarter systems. And the way that that works is that the backer will be charged in three payments, three transactions for their pledge if they've elected to use Pledge Over Time, for 1/3 of their amount for each of those payments. Maybe ever so slightly rounded if there's if we have to, up by 1 cent or down by 1 cent, etc. For creators, what's important to know is that you will receive your payouts in the same way that the money is collected from backers. This is actually relatively new. When we launched last year in the beta, you received your first payment alongside your core campaign payout, and then the remaining increments were paid out after the final increment was collected. Now they pay out every month after 2 weeks after they've been 3 weeks after they have been collected. The important thing to note there is that for Pledge Over Time pledges, backers are, if their additional payments fail, they're invited to come back in and fix them. They're given 2 weeks to come back in and repair that. And then your payout comes a week or so after that repair window is elapsed. So this is relatively new in just the last couple of months, that now there are three payouts for Pledge Over Time payments, so that you can also predict sort of when your funds are coming a little bit more as you would expect, instead of having to wait until all the final collection has been made for that final third or 2/3 of the payments.
That's actually really exciting to know because we noticed. I was going to ask you when that was switched over because the last one that we did was still on the both of the secondary payments were coming out. I think usually ends up being about the 12-week mark with the extra 2 weeks for them to recoup the payment if necessary and things like that. So I think that's huge because I think that is how a lot of creators expected it to be initially,
Yeah.
type of thing. So that's really awesome to know.
Yep, and that was for us sort of a scaling up thing, but we're really, really glad to now have it working in that way that's, folks will see is sort of how you might expect. So like I said, on the backer side, they're charged in 3 payments. The first charge happens just the same time when all the other pledges for the project are collected, when the campaign is successful and ends. And then those 2 remaining payments are collected automatically every month. There's an opportunity for backers to come back in and repair those payments if they do fail. This is just a quick little screenshot look of what this looks like. So when a backer has selected a pledge reward on your campaign that is above the threshold that enables pledge over time, they'll be able to see an option like this in their checkout that will let them opt into choosing pledge over time. We show them what their payment schedule dates will look like and what those amounts will break down to so that they understand what their total amount pledged will be and also what their individual payments will look like over the course of those 3 months. And yeah, backers will be able to can select between these pledge in full or pledge over time as they'd like. That's sort of the quick run through of my slides, but I'm very happy to take more questions and talk more about any specifics. You can also find out more information here at these websites. Start.kickstarter.com/pledge over time, pledge-over-time. Or we have an FAQ for creators specifically in our help center, which you can find by looking for pledge over time FAQ or follow this link. Hopefully that's helpful and will help sort of explain any other questions. Our support team is also very happy to support there, and I'm happy to answer any more questions that I can today.
Yeah, do you have any data or numbers regarding changes that you've seen on Kickstarter since Plot has been available? I know that we've definitely seen some changes in a positive direction, but I was wondering if you guys have any data surrounding that now that it's been out for a while.
We do. I can share some general stats here, but very very broadly, what we have observed is that backers who choose pledge over time do pledge at rates much higher than other backers. The average pledge value is somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.5 to 3 times higher than non-pledge over time backers. Now, obviously, there's some incentives for that, right? Because of course, pledge over time is available on higher tier pledges in general, but we have observed that that's true, and that projects that have pledge over time enabled do tend to earn a bit more than projects that don't run with pledge over time because those backers are able to participate and join your campaigns at higher price points.
Yeah, and that's a lot of what we've seen as well. We've had a lot of campaigns since we started using it in beta where the larger bundle, the bigger tiers, specifically for publishing, bundles that have 5 books, 10 books, 8 books, we're seeing a lot higher volumes on those versus the singles or, things like that. It's still $125 US minimum for Plot to be available to them, right? So they have to spend $125 between their rewards and add-ons like total cart checkout for them to be able to opt into it.
I believe it's 150, but yes,
Okay.
it's the same as that we rolled out last year. It's the same threshold in USD or the equivalent in other
Okay.
currencies. So, and as you said, that's actually correct. That maybe you don't have an individual campaign tier that is above that threshold, but if you're offering add-ons on your campaign, then backers can still, if you've enabled pledge over time, backers can still choose pledge over time if they've added those add-ons or added bonus support to their pledge to get them above that threshold.
Mhm. Yeah, and we've been working with a lot of our creators on educating around that. So, because it's similar to when people are shopping for e-commerce, where it's like, oh, if you spend $20 more, you get free shipping. So if you educate your backers and readers around, well, payment plans are available this much and higher, as they're checking out, they're encouraged to then add more to their cart so they can split up those payments.
That's right. And our checkout experience does also highlight that for backers so that they can see that if they'd really like to participate, choose pledge over time, that they need to just get above a certain threshold there.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you guys have any data on what you've seen with the follow through of payments by the time everything is completed? I know that was something that we were very curious about in the beginning on, you know, is payment two going to get made and not payment three? Are all three being made? Are they being recouped within that 2 week time frame after each payment is collected and things like that?
Yeah, by and large, the success rate is still very high. Overall, there's a slight uptick in folks who, of course, sometimes don't manage to complete all of their payments, but we haven't seen that change in any sort of drastic way. So it's still in the high 90% of backers who do complete their all of their payments and go back through and repair when they have issues. Our system, of course, automatically notifies and reaches out to backers when their payments fail. And within the backer report, you as creators can see those customers who are in those states where their payments maybe haven't collected yet, and you can also message or interact with your backers to encourage them to get in and complete their payments.
Yeah, and we've actually been implementing on the campaigns that we're running as the influence and encouraging our creators to do this as well is because we know the schedule of when all those payments are going to go through and they're the same for everybody is to go in and do select everybody who's on a payment plan a day or two before, send them a message and remind them that their payment is coming up, very similar to what you would get like on a subscription service where it's like, oh, it's coming due, things like that. Obviously, there's no like skip the month or skip your payment option, but at least them knowing that it's coming. And then they can say like, oh, even if it doesn't go through, we can be like, well, you have 14 days to recoup it. So just blah, blah. And that's been super, super helpful with us making sure that we get the follow through towards the end. Do you know what is the data around? Because obviously, even if somebody pays in full and the campaign closes and you go to charge them, they can still drop off. Do you guys have any data between like paid in full pledges dropping off versus the plot payments dropping off? Like, is it pretty similar? Because I know you said it's 90% success rate, which is amazing. I think previously, I think it was Oriana or somebody else that we spoke to. I think it was like 3 to 6% will not go through after your campaign ends. So you can kind of rough average that drop off initially. And I feel like, obviously 90%, so about 10%. So it's not anything drastic or different compared to people paying in full, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's correct. The ranges are very, very similar to the pledge in full, failure to repair rates, which, it's not just 90%, it's above 90%. It ranges there in anywhere between like 94, 98 to 99%. Some campaigns, everybody repairs, which is always great, right?
That's
But
amazing. I love
uh,
those.
but we've seen that's held very, very stable with pledge over time as well. So backers are coming in and attempting to repair that whenever they can.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Jen actually has a question. She asked how Kickstarter surveys or Pledge Manager work in relation to plot and non-plot backers. I do have one note that we've noticed, and it's specifically when using Pledge Manager only. is the survey portion cannot be completed by those who are on plot until all their payments go through. So timing wise of sending out your surveys, and if you're using Pledge Manager, it's just knowing that anybody who is on plot, you do have that roughly about 12 weeks later, plus a buffer of when they have to recoup it. Once that buffer is over, and the system tells you, I think like the last one we ran, it said, on December 8th is when you can close your surveys. You have to give them enough time to complete it because they aren't able to until then. But I believe that's the only like nuance that we've noticed, and it's more specific to Plot and Pledge Manager. If you're using like the send survey option only, there is no differentiator. Anybody can fill it out even prior to their payments being done.
Yeah, that's correct. So in 2025, we launched the Pledge Manager, our sort of in-house pledge management and fulfillment logistics assistant tool to help you as creators to manage the collection of individual SKU selections, the assessing and collecting of sales tax and shipping, and the management of all of that through the sort of after campaign life cycle. Because the pledge manager is the place where real sales tax and other things are assessed and collected. Today we do require that plot backers have completed all of their payments before they're allowed to enter into the pledge manager. Now that doesn't mean that you can't open your pledge manager for other backers who pledged in full, but backers who have pledged using pledge over time will be stopped on the entry into the pledge manager until their payments are complete. And this is a little bit of a preview, but coming later this year, in the first half of this year, will be a new option for pledge over time backers to be able to pay off their remaining payments and be able to enter in. We've gotten that request that some backers actually, wanted the flexibility, but then are able to make those final payments and would like to prioritize getting into the pledge manager and being fulfilled. So that will be coming soon. To sort of help with that dynamic. But we do think that it's actually very important for you as creators to have to not allow backers that may not complete their sort of their pledge into the fulfillment side of things, because that can confuse you for your fulfillment logistics. And also, if you're using our sort of legacy survey, the non-pledge manager option, as you said, you can launch that survey immediately after your campaign is over, and send that to all of your backers regardless of their pledge over time status. But that comes with those caveats that you may want to be thinking about how and when you fulfill to your pledge over time backers, because they may not complete all of their payments. So that's sort of a risk that you'll have to manage.
Yes. Yep. No problem, Jen. Let's see. So we covered distribution of funds, and that has been updated. Another question that we received is, this one is one I think we answered last time as well. Can backers change or cancel a plot pledge mid-campaign?
So a backer can go in and change their choices while your campaign is live. So before your campaign's end date has elapsed, they can go in and cancel or change from pledge over time back to pledge in full, or cancel it entirely if that's a choice that they want to make. They can manage that without needing to interact with you to have any assistance.
Is it still the case where if they want to modify their main reward tier that they do have to cancel it altogether and then pledge again, or are they able to edit their pledge while on a payment plan?
They still need to cancel and repledge in those situations. So that's a good call out that if you have extremely limited quantity tiers in your campaign, or sort of super early bird or other sort of timed special tiers, that may be a situation that you need to work with those backers a little bit more if they want to make a change and that's no longer a valid option for them.
Yep, perfect. Is there any, is it on like, I guess the queue to have that be updated later where they can modify instead of canceling when they're on plot?
It is. It's part of our roadmap, but we don't have a sort of committed to timeline for that yet. But it is obviously something we're aware of that a lot of campaigns do like to make use of limited quantity or early bird, sort of limited time available rewards. So it's certainly something we're thinking about.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I know we would love that too from a personal note. Let's see. And then we talked about how it affects Pledge Manager. What other improvements or expansions do you guys have for Plot over the next year?
Some other things that we've rolled out in the last year and that will continue to roll out have been some improvements in the tooling available to creators for refunding pledge backers who have utilized pledge over time, including for in the scenarios where maybe not all of those future payments have been collected yet. And so we can now assist you with if you need to refund 80%, but only 30% has been collected so far, that we can cancel the future payments and make that a lot more straightforward. There are some continuing improvements that will roll out in that space too, to sort of make your lives easier in sort of managing the sort of full life cycle of backers who've chosen to engage with Pledge Over Time. Also on that list is how we deal with dispute resolution or chargebacks for the unfortunate scenarios sometimes where backers will issue a dispute through their bank on the charges, and how we support you in defending against those when it's maybe not accurate, or a situation that could be resolved alternately. There's a few other things I can't totally speak to or commit to, but this is an area of the product that we're really excited about that's grown a lot over this last year, and we continue to keep spending resources on improving.
Well, I'm very excited to eventually hear what those are. I definitely think Plot, for the campaigns that we run and the creators that we work with, has probably been one of the biggest game changers coming out of 2025. I think it's one of those where it truly is one of those, like, backers have asked for so long, and to finally have it available. I mean, we have campaigns where the author has never been on Kickstarter before, and their readers, like, on social media responses are like, are you going to offer payment plans? Like, they just know already. And I don't think we've had anybody up until this point not use it, which has been really awesome. And we've seen kind of the same trends where there are some fall offs. We worked a lot with, like, if the second payment doesn't go through, or the third, and the 2 weeks is over and they couldn't figure it out, or just whatever happens, it's still trying to, like, reconcile those out off platform, like, if necessary, because they still want to get their rewards. One question that we do get a lot, and I know, like, kind of like the overall stance, but I think it'd be helpful for everybody else, is what happens on the backer side if their payments don't go through? And kind of what is that expectation from Kickstarter's perspective? Like, what is the responsibility of the creator and then the backer?
Yeah, that's a good area for us to just remind you all of how that works. So we decided that it's too hard from the Kickstarter platform perspective for us to know when you, the creators, may have incurred real costs in your production that would affect your ability to be able to easily absorb a full refund if a backer doesn't complete their payments. So the policy from the platform standpoint that is that as a backer chooses to participate in Pledge Over Time, they're agreeing to the terms, which are that automatic refunds of their previously paid increments are not guaranteed or automatic in any regard if they fail to complete their future increments. So, as an example, if they complete their first of the 3 increments, but fail on the second or the third increment to repair and complete that payment, they're not automatically refunded for the payments that they did complete. Now, that is information that is important for you as creators to understand. It is still up to you, and you have the tools available to you to refund those backers if that is within your capabilities and your personal policies for your campaigns. But it is left for you to determine and to describe. So we definitely encourage you to consider that and to make that clear to your backers in your campaign explanations too, for like when you can and cannot support any sort of extra refunds. But that's again because we didn't want to make assumptions about what could or could not be possible for creators on that case, because we know that some of them have committed to production levels during their campaigns and cannot necessarily give up those committed funds, even if the pledge payments aren't completed.
Yeah, yeah. And we work a lot with like, how do you communicate that with your backers in a way where you're not opening up a can of worms too soon, right? Or leaving like any type of like negative experience. But it is one of those where like, with plot being, the $125, $150 or more, in theory, that first payment would hopefully cover your raw cost of any quantities that you ordered for that person. And then obviously you don't technically owe them like the product, so then you can sell it if you need to, things like that later down the road, and kind of like make up for that. But it is very much like your discretion, right? Like, is it a fan that you've known for forever and something just happened and, you kind of mitigate it the way that you see fit, that's best for you and your brand and your experience. But it's not expected. And we always recommend having a section on your story dedicated to plot if you're going to be offering it, that from the get-go explains to them like the number of payments, how often are they, automatically, drawn from whatever payment form that you use, any refund policy, if you're going to allow for them, if you're going to do it case by case, and having that at the forefront ahead of time, so you don't end up with negative backlash on the end or having to deal with that. So that's really great. I think that was probably one of the bigger questions that we've had, is just like, what then, and like nobody wants to do the wrong thing, but it is very much like, are you then going to take it out of your pocket? Right. And stuff. So I think that's a great one. What feedback have you guys gotten from creators on plot? I know we love it, obviously, and we use it all the time. All of our creators do. We use, things like that. But what is like the general consensus that you guys have been hearing?
It's been very well received. People are loving it. The level of participation is beyond what we expected, and by that I mean the number of creators and campaigns that are choosing to use pledge over time, and the backer response, the amount of backers that are choosing to participate and pledge their dollars in that way. It's been very well received. It's very exciting. Something that you may remember from last year when I was here with you all is just in describing the beta period of pledge over time, is that we've initially rolled out with 4 payments split every 2 weeks. And in our beta period, what we learned and heard was that monthly payments were a little bit more appealing to the majority of our backers, and our creators were okay with that time period. In particular, that's we saw in our data was very relevant to our international backer community. So folks outside of the United States, where in the United States it's a little bit more common perhaps for income to come in bi-weekly or every 2 weeks sorts of increments. Elsewhere in the world, it comes often much more on a monthly basis. So in terms of backers' comfortability with budgeting for these higher dollar rewards, they were much happier with 3 payments spread out monthly than 4 biweekly payments.
That's actually really interesting. And it's funny because we actually had that discussion internally, because when the switch happened, I was like, that's interesting. Because like here in the US, we are so much more accustomed to like Klarna, Afterpay, Affirm, right? Where it is typically every 2 weeks they take it out. It's automatically over 4 payments. And that is so like known and expected. So I was really actually genuinely curious, like where the three came from and the over the month. So that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, if you go and you look at the Klarnas or Affirms, and you look at their offerings overseas in Europe, for instance, where they also tend to operate, they actually they shift to a pay in three model there as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh, good to know. We were trying to figure it out, and I was like, I have nothing. I don't know. And then I was like, well, maybe it's like timing, because after that much time, you would then order or whatever it is. And I was like, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see. Another question that we get is, how does plot count towards your funding goals and all that good jazz? So
Yeah. So in terms of your campaign's total raised, we show the total pledged raised, and that's inclusive of the amounts that are that choose to participate in pledge over time. So if a backer chooses pledge over time on a $300 pledge tier, you're going to see your campaign total go up by $300, not $100, right? And so you'll always see the total amount pledged, committed, and that is of course the intention. And that's also why in your backer reports you'll see that as well. In the backer report, you can choose to filter now by pledge in full or pledge over time if you want to be able to look at the differences, and you'll be able to see the various statuses of that, so you can filter it by folks who still have remaining payments and see those outstanding amounts if you're interested. But your campaign total will always reflect the total amount pledged.
and actually on that note, can you go through and explain the statuses and what they mean? We figured it out type of thing, but I think it'd be good for people to know what those those statuses being added to it when you're clicking on, I think it's like collected. I can't remember the other one off the top of my head, and kind of how those are being separated out.
Yeah, so in your backer report, typically what you will see is during your campaign, you'll see the status pledged up for each entry, and that means that that's someone who has pledged toward your goal, but we haven't yet made a transaction attempt on that. For your pledge and after your campaign ends, in your backer report, you'll see collected status for all of the backers who have paid, we've made a transaction attempt against, and that has gone through successfully. For your pledge in full, folks, they get charged once, and so they go immediately to collected. For your pledge over time backers, they will not go to collected until their third increment is completed and they are a complete collected pledge. They will remain in a pledged state through their additional increments. They may move to the errored or the dropped states, depending on if they had a payment collection failure, which is what moves you to errored, and they're in their repair window, those 2 weeks that they have after each increment to come back and fix it. Um, or if they fail to fix their payments, they may move to the dropped state. And so you can filter in your backer report by those different states, and determine, sort of where each of them are.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we clicked around to figure it out the first couple of times. And it made sense once we got through it and then kind of going through the phases. Oh, I just had another question and then it went away. What was it? It was, oh, I do have a question. So if somebody is on plot, and this kind of ties back into pledge manager. So I don't know if you'll know. If not, we will ask Caitlin in March when we have her on for that one. If they make a modification during the pledge manager, how does that work with plot? So they would be done and they would pay for it in full. And then I know that it does change how it looks on when you click on the actual backer to see like what they've added or removed, or I guess added to their overall total. So is there any other distinctions outside of that for if they were modifying things after the fact?
I'm not entirely sure I followed your question, but what I will say is like as we went over a little bit before, your plot payments have to be complete before you can enter the pledge manager. Now, in the pledge manager, you can do your backers can do several things. They may upgrade to a new pledge tier, or they may take advantage of additional add-ons that you offer in your pledge manager phase, separate from your campaign phase. And of course, they'll pay for their taxes and their shipping as necessary. Um, all of that gets reflected in the backer reports and in the backer details that you may be looking at there. I believe you'll still be able to see that they were originally a pledge over time backer, um, but you'll see the reflection of their final choices in their backer details for when they complete their final order, if they upgraded or made other modifications. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's why I was kind of asking. I haven't had anybody modify in Pledge Manager on payment plans. I had somebody modify just a paid in full on Pledge Manager.
Mhm.
So like the backer details went in because it'll show you like their payments that they made. So I was kind of curious, like how would you be able to see if they've added something in addition to on the backer details? How is that kind of separated out for you to be able to identify? Like if people have questions about it, because we had some like customer service questions because they were like, they didn't realize the additional charge in Pledge Manager and what they originally got. When we first looked at the backer details, I was like, oh, this is new. I'm not as familiar with it, to then explain it to the backer.
Yeah, it's all separated out there. So your sort of pledge time transactions and your pledge manager time or sort of final sales order transactions are displayed, but they're kept separate so you can see the differences.
The differences in those. Awesome. Um,
And I'll also note there while we're talking about it that we do not allow pledge over time to be utilized in the pledge manager checkout. So that means that once you've gotten to the pledge manager, we believe that you'll be close to fulfilling. And again, in the same way with the campaign and why we don't allow a pledge over time backer into the pledge manager, we don't want to have you end up running the risk that final payments might not be completed after you've already fulfilled. So pledge over time is not an available offering for the checkout in the pledge manager. The backers finishing out and maybe upgrading or adding additional add-ons are going to pay in full at that moment.
yeah, I think that's a great note. And totally makes sense, right? Because then you don't want to extend this even further, send them things when you haven't collected it, delays things. So it totally makes sense. But I think that is good to know because I think people are going to ask or might potentially say, yes, it will be available, even though it's not. So I think that's a great part too.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's it for the questions that I have for what was submitted before for everybody who was registering. Do you have any other notes or sneak peeks that you can maybe hint to?
I think I've given all the sneak peeks
Okay.
I'm allowed to at this point, but we're really excited about this. We'd love for your all's feedback too. So please, get in touch with Amanda and let her know, and she can get in touch with me, or send us your feedback through our support channels or other things. We love to hear it, and really appreciate all the hard work that you're doing to bring great things to the world, and we hope that this is helping support. You do great things.
Awesome. Thank you. I was really hoping I might be able to get one more out of you, but it's okay. It's okay. I'll wait for the next one.
You can put that pressure on Caitlin too when you talk
Oh,
to
I
her.
will. Yeah, I'm already working on my questions for her for myself. I'm like, I have questions. So awesome. So thank you everybody for joining us today. We actually have the registration for the next one available on the Influence website already. Caitlin from Pledge Manager will be joining us at the end of March. So we'll hope to see you on the next one. Thank you so much, Brian.